Welcome you to this episode of Awaken the Inner Warrior. Today I have something very special for you. We're going to be doing our very first book review on Awaken the Inner Warrior. And the book is called In Search of the Warrior Spirit by Richard Strozzi Heckler. This is a copy of the book that I have. There are newer versions out, but this is really the primer on what it means to be a modern warrior in today's society. So that's why I felt like I really wanted to share this one with you. Now I want you to imagine that a samurai warrior was brought through time and dropped into a platoon of Green Berets. And he was in charge of training these people in the martial arts, in meditation, in mind-body connection, and in general awareness of their surroundings. Now it sounds far-fetched, but this actually happened, and that's what this book is about, In Search of the Warrior Spirit. It was 1985, and the U.S. Army was reeling from what had happened in Vietnam. They had men that were trained to be killers, they had proven themselves on the battlefield, and yet they were in peacetime. So how did they reconcile the two of those? How did they take these men who were experts at warfare and keep them in a peaceful society so that they could be good husbands, so that they could be participating members of their community? That's what the Army was dealing with. So in response, they started looking at warrior cultures that had actually done this, that had men fight on the battlefield, be very effective, and then brought them home to society, and had them function as contributing and participating members. And to do this, they decided they were going to put together a classified program called the Trojan Warrior Project. And it's the Trojan Warrior Project that this book is about. Now the samurai that I mentioned in the beginning of this episode was actually a man named Richard Strozzi Heckler. And Heckler's not exactly a samurai, but he is a martial artist. He was a black belt in a martial art called Aikido, which we've covered before in Awaken the Inner Warrior. And he was also a PhD in clinical psychology in mind-body connection. Of all things to be a PhD of, right? It's pretty cool. So Richard Strozzi Heckler, in addition to all of those things, was also a United States Marine at one point in his life. So he understood the military mindset. So when the Army was putting together this Trojan Warrior Project, they brought him in because he had that military connection. He had that knowledge of military mindset, of psychology, and he also had the martial arts background, the meditation background, the awareness background that he could teach to these Green Beret soldiers. So when they brought him in 1985, they dropped him into a group of Green Berets, specially chosen, there's about 25 of them, and he ran them through a 6-month training cycle where they were taking martial arts classes, they were learning how to meditate, they were learning about biofeedback, hooking their brains up to computers and then running them through situations where they would learn how to activate the parts of the brains they would need in order to keep their calm under stress. And this group of Green Berets, it's interesting because a few of them were Vietnam veterans, they had proven themselves in combat, and a few of them were young guys, you know, they were the young specialists, they were the young corporals, brand new to the Army's Green Beret program, had never actually had to deploy. So you had a whole mix of people who knew what combat was, knew what that entailed. Then you had a group of young guys who were just there to prove themselves, you know, lots of machismo, lots of that type of male energy that the military is known for, you know. So Richard was dropped into the middle of all these guys and they told him, teach these Green Berets how to meditate. Teach them how to move in harmony like you do in Aikido. Teach them what it means to have that mind-body connection so that they can literally be super soldiers. Because no other military training program in the world was attempting what the U.S. Army was attempting in the 80s. The result of this program was a group of Green Berets who not only understood what it meant to be warriors on the battlefield, but what it meant to be warriors in their daily lives. And that's the really amazing part, because they tracked their progress, not only physically, not only like how many push-ups and pull-ups could they do at the beginning and end of the program, but they also tracked them psychologically. How well were these men able to recuperate, to use their downtime to replenish their bodies? What was their diet at the beginning and end of the program so that they could really maximize the nutritional capabilities of food? These were literally soldiers that were taken to a superhuman level. And I say superhuman because it was so much more than even the Green Berets were even capable of prior to the Trojan Warrior Project. So as a result of this, they learned how to be warriors in their daily lives. Throughout this book, which is written in journal form, it's like you're reading Richard's journal throughout this program, the daily encounters he has with these Green Berets, the struggles he goes through as he's trying to open them up to a new way of being, a new psychology of what it means to be a present and fully aware human being. He teaches them what it means to separate themselves from war. And what I mean by that is, he really goes into the psychology of warfare to say, if this is what it means to be a warrior on the battlefield, what does it mean to be a warrior in daily life? And so some quotes that I'd like to share from you from this book, so let me pull them up for you. Richard says that with all the reasons not to fight, we have not lived in peace since our beginning. And he asks the question, why is that? Why, with all of these reasons we have not to fight, we've seen the horror of the wars, we've seen the struggles, the broken men that come back from these battles, why is it that we've not asked ourselves, what is it not to fight? What does it mean to not have to go to war and do that over and over again? To really take a peaceful mentality and bring it into modern life and to modern warriorhood. And he says the response to that is, how do we free our warrior selves without sacrificing what it is that makes us warriors? How do we free that inner warrior without sacrificing the effectiveness that we have on the battlefield? He says, how do we separate the warrior from the war? And that's the struggle that he wrestles with throughout this book. So in your daily life, I'll bet you struggle with being a present human being, being effective at work, being giving, a lover, a relationship person, a teacher to your children, a teacher to your community, someone that can give back to everyone they encounter to in the world and not overextend yourself. That's something we all struggle with in our jobs. How do I be a giver? How do I be a lover? And yet how do I not give too much of myself so that at the end of the day I'm not burnt out and I realize I haven't taken any time for me, for my cultivation? Well, that's something that Richard outlines in this book, because these Green Berets struggle with the same thing. They're out there 24 hours a day giving 100% of themselves, and yet feeling that burnout, feeling that internal struggle of how do I get myself in balance? And that's what he teaches these Green Berets throughout this book. So that's why I think it's of a real value to everyone who's really trying to find a path of modern warriorhood in their own lives. Some more quotes from this book. He talks about what it means to be a member of the modern warrior class. So he's referring to Green Berets, but I believe it really applies to all of us in our daily lives. He says that to be a member of the modern warrior class is to have a human heart that hungers for a passionate and a wholehearted life. I want you to really sink that into yourself. Take that in at a core level. To be a member of the warrior class, to be a modern warrior, is to be someone who has a piece of the human heart that hungers for a passionate and a wholehearted life. Now I know that really describes me, and I'll bet if you're listening to this, if you're listening to the podcasts, you're reading the blog posts, then you have that human heart that hungers for a passionate and wholehearted life. And if those words resonate with you, if that phrase really gets to you on an inner level, then I really recommend you go and you pick up a copy of In Search of the Warrior Spirit. You can get it electronically, you can get it on book. So you really don't have an excuse not to pick this book up and read it. You're really going to enjoy the insights that it offers you as someone pursuing modern warriorhood in your daily life. Another quote from this that I really wanted to share with you is one of the best quotes that I've ever come across to summarize what it means to be a modern warrior. And this quote, Richard says, he's thinking on it, it's toward the end of the training, he's seen these Green Berets, he's seen the change that they've gone through, and he writes in his journal, he says, being a warrior doesn't mean winning or even succeeding. Isn't that crazy? For him, being a warrior doesn't mean winning or even succeeding in your goals. Instead, being a modern warrior means risking and failing and risking again as long as you live. Isn't that amazing? It's not winning and it's not succeeding. Instead, it's risking and failing and risking again as long as you are alive, as long as you are drawing breath on this world. You are risking and failing as many times as it takes in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to be that fully realized human being that you know that you can be inside. All of these things are struggles that Richard covers in his book, In Search of the Warrior Spirit. Now at the end of the training, at the end of this 6-month period where the Green Berets are learning meditation, they're learning Aikido, they're learning what it is to be a warrior on and off the battlefield, it's amazing the results that happen to these men in their lives. Not only are they better warriors, they increase their ability to rest by 150%. Right, so the 8 hours of sleep that they get a night, it's 150% better than when they started. Alright, they're 75% better in their physical abilities, their abilities to go out there and do the things that warriors do on the battlefield. Alright, but in addition to that, Richard hears the stories of these men when they come back from being at home, and they're more present as husbands. They're able to play better with their kids because they have the ability now to not just be strong physically, but to be strong mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They're able to be more present in their daily lives. And that for me is really what modern warriorhood is about. That's why I want to spread this message about awakening the warrior within you, because I believe it has the ability to make you more present. So go out and pick up a copy if you really want to be blown away by an actual experiment that the U.S. Army did in modern warriorhood, In Search of the Warrior Spirit's a book that I think you'll really get a hold of and enjoy. If you're interested in more on modern warriorhood, I want you to go to awakentheinnerwarrior.com. Sign up for that video course. Get those updates, these blogs, these podcasts, these videos that I'm putting out there all the time. Because it's my passion, my purpose, and my bit of living a wholehearted life to share this message with you, to help you awaken the warrior spirit within yourself. So it's been a pleasure to speak with you today. I hope that you'll go and you'll sign up for updates, you'll check out the podcast version, you'll check out the blog version of this video episode, and then you'll continue to join me as we explore what it means to be a modern warrior.